Better? There we go. Okay, it's 10 after and therefore time to quiet down. So please quiet down. Either Max has shrunk a lot and lost a lot of hair, or he sent one of his friends to teach you today. I'll let you figure out which. Also, I think he would have gotten about 20 years older. So I'm Peter Burke, just like this says. I'm one of Max's colleagues. Mostly I teach beginning microtheory to freshmen in the College of Natural Resources. Otherwise, I do things very similar to Max. I do environmental economics. I do some of it in Africa and most of it in the U.S., I guess a little in China. And today, Max has sent me to teach you all about economics. And he wanted me to start here. What we're really going to talk about for the next bit is the behavior of buyers, which is the thing where I put the check mark on to see if my check marks work, and they do. But a little preview is after we do that or after Max does that for 3 or 4 weeks, he's going to move on and talk about the behavior of sellers. Then he's going to talk about how they interact. How many have taken some variety of beginning economics, high school or whatever, right? So supply and demand, that's familiar, right? So they interact with supply and demand. That might be a way to think about it. But where does demand come from? That's the subject of the next several weeks. Where does supply come from? That's the subject of about the 4 weeks after that. And then you come down to how they interact. And Max is going to focus on the competitive market, and then he'll spend some time on non-competitive markets. And he lists some things that are surely non-competitive. Oil, right? You watch the price of oil go up and down, and there's an OPEC, and it tries to make the price of oil go up. That's not really the competitive model. The competitive model is better stated as price taking. You see what price there is and decide what quantity you want to produce. That wouldn't define OPEC very well. Vitamins, it turns out the manufacturers got together and raised the prices on you. That would not be a competitive market. How many operating systems do we have floating around that we actually use? 2, 3? It doesn't sound like a competitive market. So it's pretty easy to find things like that. Some of the things listed up here, wheat would be a great example of a competitive market. There are an endless number of farmers producing wheat. None of them can do much about the price. There's an endless number of consumers. Okay, so that's a competitive market. And then what gets very interesting is when you get away from that. What happens in oil? And mostly what we do is we examine what happens when things go wrong, not what happens when things go right. But that's way down the course. And for now, we're way at the top, which is do we have a model that we can talk about of how buyers buy things? Why do they decide to buy things? And we call that a model of consumer choice. The underlying things that make up a model of consumer choice are what people want and what they can afford. So you can break it into 2 pieces. And you could write where it says consumers face scarcity. You can write can, see if my handwriting is all legible, afford. Well, if you're here, you'll know what it means. If you're at home, good luck to you. And this is all about want. Okay? So we're going to mesh 2 pieces of a model. Today's is going to be about want. What do consumers want? How do I describe what they want? That's today. Next time is probably what can consumers afford? And then we take the 2 things and we stick them together on a graph, and lo and behold, we see what they're going to do. So that's where it goes. Let me get stuff out from underfoot, otherwise it'll be a much more amusing class. How do we work on what the consumers want? We assume people have preferences. And if you're going to pick a fight with us economists, if you say, I don't like this whole thing, this is where you better pick your fight. Because after this, our assumptions are much less innocuous. So let's push on this a little bit. We're going to say consumers have preferences over bundles. And let's make it simple. We'll think about a world that has only 2 goods in it, and both of the things are good, the things you like. Max would go for 2 different types of candy, which will show up later, right? And imagine, and it should have been done, right? I should have spent the day getting the right piles of candy. But you'll have to imagine there were 2 piles of candy on the table. And one of them has a lot of Reese's peanut butter cups and a few pieces of ordinary chocolate. The other has a lot of ordinary chocolate and not much in the way of Reese's peanut butter cups. And you come up to the front, and you can have whichever one you want. Presumably you pick one, you go home and you eat it, right? So you made a choice. You have a preference over the bundles. And it's a sensible thing to ask, do you have preferences over bundles that have food in them and cars in them and stuff like that? And we think the model is reasonable for stuff like that. You choose how much gasoline to buy relative to how many times you go out to dinner. You choose whether your bundle includes a lot of skiing and therefore a lot of dragging useless bags of water, namely us, up and down mountains, or whether you go for modern dance and you have to move all by yourself, right? Those are all choices, and I think you would probably agree with me it's reasonable to say someone made a choice between this activity or that activity, this thing for dinner or that thing for dinner. What I want you to do for the next couple of minutes is I want you to think for yourself of what cases where people do things where if I said, and so she made a choice too, and you could fill in the blank, you would say, you're crazy. That's not a choice. What are you talking about? Right? So why don't you think of something that works for you, where if I said the person did this or the person bought this, and it was their choice, they could have done the other, you would say, choice? What are you talking about? Why don't you write down one thing? So I'll just take a second to write down one thing where you think this model where I have 2 bundles and one's got a lot of chocolate and one's got a lot of peanut butter, and I choose the one I like, where that model makes no sense to you. It could be a behavior of some kind that you do or don't do. It could be something you buy that you don't think is really a choice. So everyone write one down. We have enough time to fool with this for a couple minutes. So write down something where you think this model doesn't work or doesn't make sense. Just choose one. Okay? Get some volunteers? Oh, okay. Do I think of that as a choice? She chose to consume the water. So no, I'm going to say that's a choice. She could have walked around in dirtier clothes and that was her choice. I mean, I get your idea that, okay, when you do things, there are consequences and they're just going to happen to you. But I want something where it's fundamentally, you disagree that there was any choice there at all. Okay? You're trying to push the limits of where you think economics doesn't make sense. Wait a minute. Again, it's just compulsory. It's not very interesting. You're not, in the old days, she could have bought health insurance or not. She could have decided to have a bigger, fancier car and not have health insurance, and many Sarahs did. You're also going towards the compulsion. I want the compulsion. I want a place where it just fundamentally doesn't make sense to you to say this person chose this. I'm going to fight with you guys just for the fun of it, okay? So, when I get older, I'm going to save you all a fortune because when I get that lung cancer, I'm going to say, they treated my uncle with everything known to man and he lived like 10 minutes longer than my dad. My dad had a lot better time of it. And so there obviously was some choice in the treatment. And personally, when I get my deadly cancer that they say, oh, there's a 2% chance we might be able to help you, I'm going for a long walk in the woods. It can save you all hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think that's a choice at my age. But you're going in the right direction there. Okay. Now, if you've been in economics as long as I had, you'd probably say, yeah, it's a choice. But that's the difference between us and ordinary humans. Okay, I'll take it. More extreme. Go on, let's go more extreme. So suppose you watch somebody who didn't eat food. What would you say? I mean, there are people like that, right? There are people who starve themselves. What would you say? Well, they could do something else. They could die. And they do. But do you want to describe that as choice? I mean, that's the question. You watch somebody, and they want to be super thin, and they push it a little too far. Do you think of that as a choice, the same way you think of, I took the left candies rather than the right candies? You think of it that way? You can answer. No, you don't. Okay. Why? Or go ahead, but loud. No, you actually, if you go out there, go to the student health center, be a nurse there, and you will see people who put their lives at risk by not eating enough food. I promise you, they're there. Because there's 35,000 of you, so everything's there. But are you going to describe, you're now the nurse practitioner, my friend Nancy. Are you going to describe what this kid did as a choice? You're going to walk up to the doctor you're working with and say, instead of choosing the left pile of candy, she chose the right pile that had nothing in it. It's strange what choices people make. You're going to hear a nurse say that? Describe it as disease. Wow. So are you going to really use the word preference there? Are you going to hear a nurse practitioner say, oh, it was just the preference that she didn't eat? Will you hear that? So does this model have some limits? All right, let's try it again a little different. So somebody walks up and they choose the left pile of candies rather than the right pile. Are you going to say tisk tisk? Are you going to say, no, I'll help you get the right pile of candies? Or are you going to say, yeah, it's your preference. You whichever pile you like. Then when you're going to try to interfere with someone else's choice of which of the two piles they eat? No, nobody, right? Is that right? So basically, you can buy into the model at the level of candies and stuff like that. All right, so here's a ridiculous example. It's made up. I have the picture-perfect heroin addict. Okay? It's picture-perfect because he knows going in that he's going to get addicted. It's just 100% foresight. He knows that once he does this, there's going to be massive deterioration, there's needles and that, all kinds of stuff. He's going to die in 5 years, and it's going to be, in the end, unpleasant and horrible. He realizes he'll need to be buried, so he puts away enough money for that. He doesn't have any children or any spouse or anything, so you can't tell me, no, if he does this, it's really going to, hurt his kids because no one's going to provide for them. That's why it's picture perfect. He's magic. He's the magic heroin addict. So how many of you are going to interfere with his free choice and save him anyway? 0? There's at least 1. Anyone else? Yeah. If that makes a difference, yes. He's magical, so he can do these things. Okay? There's no spillovers on other people in the form of, he bought the heroin and that meant they shot 4 guys in Mexico to get it for him, right? All that stuff's out of the way because he's magical. He doesn't have these problems. But are you going to save this guy? So there's like 1 in the class. Is that it? Yeah, there's more. I'm going to save him. I don't respect his preferences. I don't have a problem with this. I have 3 kids and 3 grandkids. I would interfere in a minute. Right? So just because you buy into the model at the level of it's a great model for why people buy cars, which cars they buy and stuff like that, doesn't mean when you're presented with pathology, you can't say, wait a minute, this is pathology. You don't want to use an economic model to describe it. It's probably not a good idea. Economic models of suicide are probably stupid. Such a paper exists, of course. So there are limits, like with all models. Now you've been warned. But once you buy in to the idea that for the type of choices we're considering, people choose the bundle they prefer, you have become much more conservative than you wanted to be, because now you're going to have to respect their preferences. Or you're going to have to find something outside the transaction that makes you want to interfere. I drive a Dodge Charger. Okay, that's your choice. But it turns out I also menace bicyclists on the road in Berkeley. Well, okay, now we're outside the transaction. I have a reason to want to stop the guy from driving anything bigger than a golf cart, which is how I felt this morning. Right? So that's the limits. Now, how do consumers choose? Well, you could actually create a working model in which you could say, this is the set of bundles that people have available to them, and they randomly choose from them. You could create a model like that. It doesn't strike me as describing things very well, because I think they pick bundles they like as opposed to bundles they don't like. So I think they choose them systematically for something they personally like. And that's what gives us a theory here. That means we have to describe preferences. So preferences are over bundles. Okay, they're not over goods. I don't ask, does the guy prefer string beans to potatoes? I ask about a bundle, something that has some amount of any number of goods in it. And I compare bundles. Think of a simple world where everything you consume is at a grocery store, right? That's a big enough world to think about. Now a bundle is whatever it is you got in your grocery cart. And you can sensibly ask, do I like this grocery cart better than that grocery cart full of stuff? In 2 dimensions, which is where we mostly work as a board, right, we'll have models that have in them just 2 goods, 2 types of candy, oranges and bananas, something like that. And we'll ask about, do I prefer the bundle with 3 oranges and 2 bananas to the bundle with 2 bananas and 1 orange, right? That's the kind of question we can ask. So preferences are over bundles. Now, what are their properties? We better write down. Let's write this down just in case anyone wants. Let's try to write it down. Correct. Preference over. All right. If you were a class, I'll provide you with enough to get back to it. What properties do I want? Here they are listed with their fancy names, and we can talk about each one, which we will. And I think we get them in order with luck, because Max is good at these things. Here I have 2 bundles. You notice it's Reese's and Hershey's. What does completeness mean? It means each of you can answer the question, I like this answer the question, what do you like? Either as, I like bundle A more than bundle B, I like bundle B more than bundle A, or I'm exactly indifferent. I'll take either one. This is the only three choices. There's obviously greater than, equal to, and less than, but we write it with a funny symbol. To get preferred, we write a, maybe I'm better off on the board here. We write A preferred to B like that, with a kind of squiggly greater than sign. And we have a squiggly less than sign to go with that. And then for I like them the same, we'll just use a tilde. And that's our notation. I don't know where we got it, probably from mathematicians. But if you see Max write that, that's what he means. He tells me he will use those symbols, so we got it. What can you not do? You cannot be a teenager. If you ask a teenager, this will be your problem in 15 or 20 years. Where are you going? What will they answer? Somewhere. Who are you going with? Someone. Do you want to do X? Don't care. Okay? The teenager will try to deny the existence of preferences. The teenager will not say, I'll take either one of these, thank you. They both make you equally happy. The teenager will deny that he would have anything like preferences over whatever goods you, the parent, care about, and say, don't care. Right? That's not okay. We've assumed that everyone has preferences over bundles, that the ranking is complete. Any two bundles, you'll say this better than that better than this, or they're just exactly the same. That's completeness. Transitivity is just like in school. A greater than B, B greater than C, A greater than C. Stated this way, it's bundle A preferred to bundle B preferred to bundle C, therefore bundle A preferred to bundle C. Exactly like in wherever they first taught you about transitivity. Right? And that we need. The last one is more is better. And I'm going to try to draw it on the slide. I'll try to draw it on the board too. So let me draw an axis. So I have two goods. And one of these things is Hershey's. So the number of Hershey's is on the horizontal, and the number of Reese's is on the vertical axis, right? And so a bundle is a point. Like two Reese's and two Hershey's would be a point 2, 2. Yeah? And the assertion is any bundle that has more of one good and not less of the other good is preferred to that bundle. You could draw that, and let me draw that area. Right, everything up here. So any point to the up and the over of a given point has more of at least one of the items and not less of the other. And our assumption about preferences is that you prefer more. There's obviously a problem. You can think of things that are bad. Think something that's bad you don't want. Come on. What? Cigarettes. So for him, cigarettes are bad. He wants less of them. So how can I make my model work? I define good as the absence of cigarettes. Let's put a negative sign in front of it. So I can turn anything into a good. I guess you could probably find things that are good to begin with and then bad, and I could find a mathematical solution for that, but let's not worry about it. So easier to just think of things that are good, not things that are bad. And here's an example of some goods and bads. Truffles. He likes bald eagles because why? Why do you like bald eagles? Anyone like bald eagles? Yeah, a bunch of you like bald eagles. Any reason? You don't have to have a reason, by the way. It's preferences. I just like bald eagles because I do. Right? You don't really have to have a reason for preference. It doesn't make any difference to us. But anyone, do you want to give a reason for liking bald eagles? No reason? Okay. What? Aesthetically pleasing. Max wrote down pretty on his notes. Cheese. And then he gave some obvious bads. Noise, pollution. As I pointed out, if I wanted to turn him into... Yeah, he comments that if you're Canadian, you shouldn't take it too seriously. But these things, you could turn this around very easily. This is clean air. The good is clean air. The good is quiet. Right? So an awful lot of bads, if you just didn't want to deal with the notion they're bads and my grass is going to look funny, you could name a good that corresponds to them. And that's in fact what we would do if we were going to analyze something that had a bad in it. I would turn it around to turn it into good. I'd turn it into clean air. But we're just going to deal with goods. And that way more is better makes sense. And I'm supposed to jump up and down here, right? Yes, we can. And I'm supposed to shout, go Bears. But let's look at his chart and see what he did. He created 3 sections. In the blue section, he gives 3 bundles. He has Hugs and Reese's, right? And so each bundle is some number of Hugs and some number of Reese's, hence it's this point on a 2-dimensional graph. And that'll happen in a couple seconds. So he has 5 and 5, he has 6 and 3, he has 4 and 8, and his claim is all 3 of those bundles make you exactly the same degree of happy. So if you took the person, it might only be one person's preferences, you could all have different preferences. Do you all have different preferences? Or do you all have the same preferences? How many of you are wearing the same shirt today? Yeah, it looks like nobody. Okay? So is that a demonstration? You probably have different preferences, different hairstyles, you have different watches, different shoes, different everything, right? You probably all have your own preferences. This is just the preferences of one individual, maybe Max. So if you ask Max, would you prefer to have 5 Hugs and 5 Reese's today, or 4 Hugs and 8 Reese's? Max would say, I'm indifferent. I'd be just as happy with one of those bundles as the other. But if I found a Hugomaniac, would you be a Hugomaniac for me? Would you say the same thing? You're a Hugomaniac. You really like Hugs. And actually, you're allergic to peanut butter. Are you going to say the same? No.